absolutely ridiculous. They'll believe anything. They'll believe anything. Medical misinformation. These two words put together have become huge. Somehow, we need to be protected. Abby, you need to be protected. I need to be protected. Everybody needs to be protected because we don't know what information is true, apparently, and what isn't true. And probably our brains are not big enough to actually be able to tell the difference between the two. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get into this discussion. I think this is probably one of the most serious topics that we've talked about, something that we need to talk about. But before we get into it, what do we need to do, Abby? Tell everybody.
请帮我们按赞、订阅跟分享吧。
So in English, like, share, and subscribe. Take your finger, move it across the screen, and just tap that little like button and subscribe. It will really help us and help us to keep producing nice content for you guys.
I like the song. Just click, click.
Give it a little tappy. Yeah, right. All right, anyway, let's get serious now. So, you know, I sometimes ask people in Taiwan if they know who Joe Rogan is. And I hear no from a lot of people. I'm quite surprised.
It's a surprise, right? Yeah,
So
lots
just
of people don't know that.
4 of our friends in Taiwan, right? Let's talk about this. Joe Rogan is kind of the most popular podcaster in the whole world.
He's really, really big podcast.
Yeah, I mean, he was on YouTube before. Then Spotify, I think, paid him $100 million to join Spotify.
Yes.
And I think some people thought that he would lose subscribers when he did that, but actually it hasn't really happened because I think he is bigger than CNN. He's bigger than Fox News.
Yes.
I think that CNN gets like less than 1 million people watching per episode. He can get 15 million watching per episode.
CNN is less effective person, but Joe Rogan has more, influencer to. He's able to influence lots of people.
Sure. So over the last 2 years with COVID, one of the crazy things has been how we are not allowed to share information. You're not allowed to ask questions. There are some medicines that have been used for a very long time that if we talk about, the video will get banned. We've actually already had videos be banned. We couldn't figure out why. There are just certain people's names that you're not allowed to mention. There's certain topics that you're just not allowed to talk about. And it seems to be that because of this label, medical misinformation. You even hear Joe Biden talking about this recently. They got to try and stop medical misinformation. Fauci as well, stop medical misinformation. So why do you think this is happening, Abby?
I think lots of misinformation as of all of the world, not only about medical, but somehow recently it's like more. I think they more care about the medical misinformation.
Because it's an emergency, right?
It's an emergency. Maybe because they're COVID. They think, we have to give people the right information. But for a uncertainty thing, how do you know what is true or what is the false? I think it's better to let people talk about it and make a discussion, right?
I agree. Because like when you stop people from talking about it, then what is the message that you're saying to them?
Probably just we let some people, some authority to make what we should listen, what we should read. That they decided what is right.
Sure, I think sometimes when you stop somebody from talking, all you do is show that you're scared of what they want to say. You know, so yeah. I think so. I think people are pretty divided. I think there are lots of people who think, yes, we should stop people from talking, but then there are other people who believe more in freedom of speech. The argument that because it's an emergency, to me, seems a bit strange because you'll always find an emergency. You'll always say, this is important. And even when COVID's done, there'll be something else. But why we're talking about Joe Rogan is that this guy has been so powerful recently. So another name people in Taiwan don't really know is Robert Malone. And Robert Malone was one of the guys who was responsible for inventing the mRNA technology. Not the current vaccines, but the actual technology.
The skill, right?
Yeah. Another name would be Peter McCulloch, which is a guy who also was on Joe Rogan's show, who's an extremely well-known, famous doctor. He's published many, many peer-reviewed studies in a lot of journals. And I think he even runs one of the top 3 journals.
Okay.
And, you know, both of these guys have been talking about stuff, talking about, let's say, early treatment, talking about possible dangers with vaccines, which we're not going to really get into all of that. But I think that people that famous, their voices are important. We should hear.
Should be discussed, right?
But for some reason, Joe, what's his name? Robert Malone got deleted from Wikipedia. He also got banned from Twitter.
Yeah, think about the one who make this kind of technology, and he talk about the mRNA vaccine and got banned.
Sure, and he's actually had. I listened to the full 3-hour thing on Joe Rogan. I would encourage everybody on Spotify, go and search Joe Rogan and Robert Malone and just watch it, right? But he's been vaccinated, and when I watched it, he wasn't really against the vaccines. I think he gave quite a balanced view of the whole thing. But for some reason, he got banned on Twitter, and a lot of these people have been banned, which is why they're going on Joe Rogan's show, because it's the only place they can go and actually speak and be honest without being cancelled, because Joe Rogan is too big to cancel. So Joe Rogan's done an amazing service, I think, for everybody.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah. And I don't think that he realized what service he would provide to people before. I think he's just a dude who enjoys talking and having guests.
I think he just enjoy the process.
Yeah, and it's become something that, you know, people in Taiwan and everywhere, right? We need to be thankful because these people are trying to share information. I don't think it's fun to be Robert Malone, to have worked. And, you know, interesting things about Robert Malone is that he, I think, was like a farmer. And he only became a doctor later in life. Like not when he was a kid or when he was like university age. After that, he like saved money and went to university and only later became a doctor and then actually became a really famous doctor. And he's relatively old now. I don't think he has any reason to want to let people make his name go down now, but he's fighting to share his opinion as an expert with people. And we should, I think, appreciate that, right?
Oh,
yeah.
He could just
Like
be quiet and just stay at home and don't say anything, but he choose to stand up. At least they provide some risky information. Yeah,
sure.
I think it makes sense because you think about the vaccine, it just like developed within 2 years.
Yeah, everyone knows it was quick. Yeah,
it's really quick.
Experimental.
So everything, not all this kind of vaccine, but everything, it could have a risk or some side effects.
That's a very good point. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, this is like the perfect thing. So even right now, the current vaccine also can have some side effects. So why couldn't we just talk about the kind of side effects?
It's interesting, right? So like a few months ago, if we try to talk about women when they have their period and the bleeding changed after the vaccine, people said, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. Your video gets banned. But now it's accepted. It's in the mainstream. So what's conspiracy theory has turned into conspiracy fact. We know in the beginning, we've done a video on this. They said that if you have the vaccine, you're not going to get sick. That changed. Then it's you're not going to spread it. That changed. And it keeps changing. So if things keep changing, it shows that, as you said, it's experimental. Surely we should be listening to every expert, especially the guy who invented the technology.
Yeah, since he has more qualified.
100%. Right?
Yeah.
But because his voice is different from the mainstream narrative, and that's where it gets confusing for me because I don't know why the mainstream has the narrative that they have, which is really strange. But anything that goes against that, they seem to try to, I don't know, destroy and silence. Yeah. So let's get to this today. So this is The Independent. And as you can see, they say Spotify under fire amid silence on misinformation from podcast star Joe Rogan. So just to give you the background to this, they say, here it is here. After a group of 270 medical experts sent a letter to Spotify asking them to curb the coronavirus vaccine misinformation they claim is being shared on Joe Rogan's podcast, the audio media giant has still not responded to their concerns. So, a group of 270 medical experts Now, when you hear this,
Sounds a lot.
it sounds pretty bad, right? It's like
Sounds like a real issues.
270 medical experts are saying, hey, they're doing a bad job. They're sharing misinformation, although, as we've said, what was not true before or conspiracy before is now true. So I don't know what they really know. But apparently something bad is happening. But then, let's have a look what they did. Because if you look here, most of the 270 people who signed are not medical doctors.
So who are they?
Well, let's have a look. So you'll see here, right? I saw it. So upon review, and this is from Timcast. I think they do some pretty good news. So Tim Pool, the guy I follow on YouTube. Upon review, only 87 of the signatories are actual medical doctors. Okay, it was the news site The Blaze that first reported that. The remaining 183 signatories include nurse practitioners, veterinarians, animal doctors, a dentist, and 100 PhDs and PhD candidates.
Oh.
Right? Psychologists, physicians' assistants, medical students, engineers, and podcast hosts were part of the list.
Okay.
Now, you said something in a different segment that we did. You said that these government people sometimes take advantage of the fact that people won't read.
Yeah.
That to me looks like this.
When you only see like a 270
You think,
people,
whoa.
wow.
Mm.
And when you realize,
And then all of a sudden you find out that actually who are the people complaining. Yeah. And then I also am curious, how come on the news they don't show that, like, what did we say, the Great Barrington Declaration? Do you remember that? Yeah, the Great Barrington Declaration. We did a video on it. It was like all these doctors had signed this declaration, about it. And we'll go back to it because we've done a video before. And see if it'll load.
Oh, you mean when lots of people?
Yes, it's a whole lot of doctors signed this Great Barrington Declaration. I think they were talking about like early treatment and a few other things. Yeah, here it is here. It's been signed by 3,089 other medical and public health scientists, 4,532 medical practitioners, and 70,000 members of the public. And they're talking about herd immunity and early treatment and things. How come this isn't discussed in the same way? Because much more scientists and doctors have signed these types of things. But no, they want to talk about 270 people criticizing Joe Rogan.
It's like a friend. And it reminds me about some Taiwan news. Like the reporter will ask some doctor, and the doctor says, "Oh, right now the Taiwan's Omicron crisis is really it's an emergency. Like we have to go to level 3." And my friends just to do some research about the doctor, and they find out it's a psychologist.
The psychologist, yeah.
It's not about anything about the flu or something that they're not expert. So
yes, it's pretty interesting, right? So the question as well becomes, what did people watch on Joe Rogan that made them, start making all of these different types of like articles trying to make him look bad? And actually, I found out about it. So what they were talking about was myocarditis in young boys.
Yeah.
So Joe Rogan had this one guy on. He's an Australian guy, and they were talking about kids getting myocarditis from the vaccine. Did you know that boys get myocarditis from the virus?
No.
Yeah,
No,
so
I
they
haven't
do,
heard.
right? So they get myocarditis. Young boys get it when they get COVID. They also can get it from the vaccine, it looks like. And I think that Joe Rogan had said the chance of getting myocarditis is higher from the vaccine than from the virus.
Yeah, for the young kids.
And the guest that was on said, look, that's not true. So you know what Joe Rogan did straight away? He said, okay, let's check it out. So he asked the guy, I think his name is Jamie, who works on the show with him, to do a quick search. Yeah. And the search that they found actually said that the guest was right. And they said that the guest was right, that yes, this was true, that actually the risk was higher from the virus for young boys rather than from the vaccine.
Oh, the virus is more risky.
So the virus. So that would mean that the vaccine would be a good idea. And so I actually watched this thing, and when you see it, you kind of see Joe Rogan look a little bit confused. And what he did was he actually pulled up the report later on in the comments and on Twitter, I think, and he showed, and he said, actually, this was the research that I was talking about. Boys more at risk from the Pfizer jab side effect than the COVID. So on the show, when they did a search, they found one piece of research saying that from the virus it was worse. But Joe Rogan had seen this from The Guardian, and you see it here, right? This is from The Guardian before that, and that's what he'd seen. But Joe Rogan isn't a doctor. He was having a conversation with the guy. The guy said to him, look, this isn't correct. He did a check, and he said, oh, okay, well, I think I might be wrong. And then later he showed that this is where he'd got the information from The Guardian. So how is this guy like spreading misinformation when the information that he's talking about came from The Guardian?
Yeah, it's just talking about what kind of article he was seeing.
Yeah, and I mean he never, I think, ever said that he is a doctor. He just has conversations. He brings people on to let them share their information. And I'm sure that those people's information, other doctors could fact check, because if you listen to that podcast, you would have seen that guy, Robert Malone, he really knows his stuff. I mean, if you just listen to him, you would see, like, and I'd encourage everybody to listen to him, because he really seemed extremely professional and knowledgeable and also balanced, not like if you watch CNN and you see a lot of these crazy people full of emotion and feeling. No, he's a very good guy with good logic explaining his thoughts. But as we've seen, like, these things are never settled, right? Like, you'll think one thing and then later you'll find the truth. Why not have these people on? But why are they trying to discredit him? That's the big question. Why are they putting these articles out there saying 200 scientists, 70 doctors, blah, blah, blah? Why is that? Why do you think?
What's their reason to, like, what's the reason behind it to against Joe Rogan?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. So what do you think? Why do you think that they're trying so hard to discredit this guy?
I think that, I wonder what's their reason. I think because there are two sides of the research, maybe they believe another one. But yes. Well, what Joe Rogan's, even they believe, like, the vaccine, the virus is more risky. But what is Joe Rogan's reaction? It doesn't, like, seems to spread misinformation.
So if you think about it,
I don't know.
Like, for us, if we try to spread something, right, what would happen? Like, we're on YouTube, we're on their platform, and it's very easy. We don't have that many subscribers or anything. So what would happen? They'd easily be able to cancel, and we have forced to follow their rules. Like, I mean, when we had that one video deleted, right, we looked through all the rules and we saw that there's almost nothing you can say about the virus and the vaccine at all, according to the rules.
Oh, you mean, like, they just don't want the kind of information?
But Joe Rogan,
too big to cancel.
Yeah, he's got a contract at Spotify, so they can't cancel him. And now all these voices that the guys pushing the mainstream narrative have been trying to silence can go on Joe Rogan's show and get heard, which for some reason they don't want to be heard. So they've got to try to get Joe Rogan off the air.
Oh, they don't want the doctors or the scientists' voice be heard. They maybe because some reason they cancel them before. I know it's on Twitter, on other platform, but right now, like, going to Joe Rogan, they couldn't ask Spotify to cancel it, so they have to discredit it.
And actually, when I watched the Robert Malone one, it was very interesting because you could see how appreciative he was. He kept saying, thank you for giving me this opportunity, because he'd been banned from Twitter too. So banned from Twitter, can't go on YouTube. It's like there's a guy who invented the technology and you're not allowed to hear what he has to say because of medical misinformation from the guy who invented the technology.
So
It doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then, interestingly, Joe Rogan later posted on Twitter as well this thing. And this is by a guy called Vinay Prasad. And they actually revisited this whole issue about the myocarditis. And actually, guess what they found? So you have a look here. It showed clearly that myocarditis after vaccination was higher than myocarditis after COVID. So Joe Rogan was actually correct, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I would encourage people to go and check this out, Vinay Prasad. We're not saying this is true or isn't true, but it does seem that it might be true. And you can see here that they did the tests, right? So you can have a look. You've got first dose, second dose of that one. Then you've got BNT, right? You've got mRNA, and then you've got COVID. And he talks about it, right? Let's have a look and see if we can find it. They also talked about the fact that many people don't seek testing or medical care, which also changes the numbers. But let's have a look. It is now clear for men younger than 40, dose 2 and dose 3 of Pfizer have more myocarditis than the virus. And this is true for dose 1 and 2 of Moderna too. Pfizer boosters, have more myocarditis for men younger than 40 than infection. And here, myocarditis post-infection is more common as you get older, in contrast with myocarditis post-vaccination, which is more common as you are younger. Okay. But then he says, but the truth is still worse than these data. If the authors fixed the denominator for viral infection, it would look even worse.
What is a denominator?
If they use the seroprevalence, whatever this means, I'm not the scientist. So. And if the authors separate men from 16 to 24, 12 to 15, and 25 to 40, it would probably look worse in 16 to 24 age group. So we're not saying, YouTube, that this is correct. This is just another scientist who has posted because, they've gone and looked back at this Nature Medicine paper in December 14th, 2021 to show more information. So, why this, I think this, true or not true, we're not sure, should be discussed.
That should be discussed, at least.
And Robert Malone, the guy who invented the technology, would be a great guy to discuss this with.
Yeah, because he's a technology developer.
Yeah. So why they want to shut down people from speaking, I have no idea. I don't know what people at home think about this, if this is something you agree with or disagree with. For me, all I can say is for me personally, when I hear that someone who has a valuable opinion is not allowed to speak, I want to know why. I don't know why a technology company that no one voted for has the power to do this. Who are they to tell me what I can and can't see? That I don't understand.
Yeah, what they just because they hiding behind this, we can see there's some faults. They try to cover the other side of the voice.
Sure. And how many times has that happened in history? So many times we've seen that people were lied to. Think about the cigarette companies. They used to say smoking wasn't bad for people. And even then someone had to find it.
Yeah. Even good for pregnancy.
The sugar industry lied. Governments have lied many times. Governments have attacked themselves to start wars. So what, are we supposed to magically believe that in today's world this never happens? Of course not. Of course it happens. That's why we need people to be able... That's why we have freedom of speech, right? So that we can find and get through the lies.
Get this information.
But if now you're stopping anything that's not the accepted narrative, why it's accepted, I have no idea. I don't know why there is that narrative. But for some reason, there is an established narrative. And anything that is not aligned with that, they try to cancel. Which I don't know why. So,
but it's very suspicious.
I agree, very suspicious.
It's very suspicious. Why you try to hide?
Yeah.
If you're so powerful, you shouldn't afraid of people try to challenge you, or and they are not really challenged. They bring some facts and data to talk to.
Just having conversations.
If you don't agree with the data, you can bring other data to have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
So
So I think definitely thank God for Joe Rogan, right?
yes.
I mean, he seems to be the only guy now who can't really get cancelled, and finally these messages can get out.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I really listen and watch Joe Rogan every week.
Oh, really? You do?
Sometimes just listen.
Nice. I like to watch Joe Rogan, but I end up watching Tim Pool a lot more. I don't know why. It's a bit more serious. Maybe I like the
Tim Pool is more
part.
serious. And Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
sometimes they were not all make some fun thing.
Yeah, so it's just that there isn't much time to watch stuff. So I do watch Joe Rogan. I watch Tim Pool. I watch We Are Change. It's a guy called Luke. He's pretty good. And a lot more. I watch a lot of these. It's almost impossible to find enough time to watch as many of these people as you can. Right?
Couldn't have too much time. Sometimes I listen Joe Rogan just for kind of background music.
Sure. And then they also try to cancel Dave Chappelle, right? So Dave Chappelle and Joe Rogan have something in common. They're both comedians. So Joe Rogan's also a stand-up comedian like Dave Chappelle. So Dave Chappelle goes against the narrative on transgender.
Okay.
And then they want to cancel him too.
Oh.
So it's like we're talking about authoritarianism, right? They don't just want to control what you can say. They want to control what you can believe.
The thought, kind of like control your thought.
Sure. Like, I mean, I'm sure there must be some people who believe that biological sex is real. Some people believe it's not. But how can you choose one and say the other one is wrong? There's no way to prove it. But they want to say you're not allowed to say that, you're not allowed to think that, you're not allowed to believe that, and we're going to punish you and take your job away if you believe or talk about these things.
That's too over. You can say, I don't agree with you, I'm so angry, and you walk away. I can understand that you don't want to talk about it, but how come you can like just cancel someone? You don't like have the human rights.
And how do you describe groups of people who tell you what to think, encourage you not to listen to the other side of the argument? It's a cult.
It's a cult.
It's a cult.
And I think
that's exactly the behavior of a cult.
They don't have the confidence, or they know they are not 100% right, so they have to use this kind of method.
Sure, because if you're scared of the words someone else might say, I don't think you seem very confident in your beliefs. Because Tom MacDonald has a great line. What is it? The truth... No. Facts don't care about... No, I can't remember it now. I'll try and remember it later.
Okay.
But it's something about facts and feelings and all that. Like, what is it? Facts? Oh, I can't remember. I'll try and remember. But if you think about it, right, like, how will facts hurt your argument unless your argument is wrong? And if you're truly confident in your opinion, then you'll welcome other people to challenge you. Because I know that I'm right. I've checked this out properly. Let anybody challenge me. I know I will win. But the only time you're going to stop me from talking is if you're not sure about the message that you have. And this excuse of, but it's for an emergency. I mean, come on. It just doesn't really make sense, right? Because the same argument holds. Like, the whole idea behind science is testing and questioning, even when you think you know the answer, to keep questioning.
Yes.
But in today's world, Fauci is the science. If you question... That's what he said. He said he is science. And if you question him, you question science.
It's not a science.
No.
Because people always... we are so small, we couldn't understand those details of the world. So... and things are already changed. You couldn't always think what you met or what you think is always right. These things, it's moving forward.
But I think this is definitely a sign. I think that for us, we look at this now, we feel like this is a new thing. Actually, I think this is the last movement of a dying animal. I think that these people got so used to lying to the public for so many years. And this is the end. This is the end. But we're only seeing it now. We feel like it's the beginning of something because we're only just becoming aware of it. But actually, I think that they've been controlling the narrative for so long. And now they're freaking out because they're losing control. Personally. So it must be the end because, you know, you're not going to be able to get away from this, right? People will find ways. Like now in Germany, I think it is, they're trying to cancel Telegram. You know the app
I know.
Telegram?
Okay.
They're trying to cancel that app.
What?
Why would you cancel that? Because they don't want people talking. They don't want people spreading information. Like, that's ridiculous. But if they do cancel it, people will find another way to spread information. There's no ways you're going to put this back in the box. It's impossible. So it doesn't matter what they try, information is going to get out there. And the more they try and censor it, slowly, more and more people are going to wake up and say, why do you want to stop me from seeing information? And that's going to create momentum. And they're not going to win. I think that the truth will win, right?
And like when people have this kind of experience once, you couldn't get back.
You don't go back.
You never get back.
Tim Pool always gives a very good example of this. These people don't really understand what's going on. So Hillary Clinton, right, changes her accent depending on where she's talking. And the reason I like this example so much is it's because she's old. It's because in the past, you could do that. In the past, there wasn't the internet. There wasn't video being recorded that you could always search for. So in the past, she went somewhere and then used like a southern accent to try and sound like she's one of the common people. And people listened and would believe it. But she tries to do that in today's world, and she doesn't realize that people are going to go and check and hear. That's not how she really sounds.
There were still lots of videos.
And examples, they say that's a lie
different.
because now you can fact check. But these people don't realize that some people will go and fact check and they're going to catch these people out. So if you do try and do some stupid thing like speaking in an accent like that, you're going to get caught out. And I don't think that they'll be able to completely shut the internet down because people are going to say, well, why? It's too part of the culture. You can't get rid of the internet. So as long as there's internet, people are going to find ways, new platforms, new ways of doing things.
It's hard to hide something.
And you know what? It's happening, huh? It's happening. There are so many people developing things like the Fediverse and other kinds of technologies where it's kind of, I don't think it's using the blockchain technology, but I think it's similar. It's where you will create your own social media type of account that you store it on your own like computer so nobody can cancel it. People are working on this all the time, working on ways to share information that these big tech companies cannot cancel, and they'll get it right. And once that happens and they completely lose control, it's over. So that's why we see it now. It's because these people they're desperate, because this is so obvious, right? Everybody can check this thing with Joe Rogan. 15 million people watched that thing with Robert Malone.
And they will say, what happened to this? What's wrong?
So at least there's some positives there, right?
Yes, I hope so.
Even though it looks, what do they say? The night is darkest just before the sun comes up.
Oh.
Yeah, the night is darkest just before dawn. So maybe it's just before dawn.
I hope so. I hope this kind of be ended. Okay.
Great. Well, it was a good discussion. We had a lot of good discussions today.
Yeah, nice.
So, and please, guys, if you enjoy our content, if you find what we're doing interesting, move that finger, tappity, tappity, tappity on that like button.
Make a song.
And if you can, even better, give us a share. I know that really helps with the algorithms and will help us a lot.
We also have Facebook now. So
we do. Yeah,
we have Facebook.
So how do we find it?
How we you just check with on our YouTube. I put it on YouTube.
You put it on the
channel.
YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So you can find we have Facebook, and I think we're gonna have Spotify soon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and we're also on Rumble.
Yeah, always on Rumble.
So you can find us at a lot of places. Right. So Chinese New Year is almost here, so we're gonna take a week off next week. But to everyone in Taiwan, Happy Chinese New Year.
Happy Chinese New Year.
新年快乐.
Yeah, hopefully we can have a happy vacation.
Yes, I agree. Great. So we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.